everybody, and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I have a special breakdown covering some of my favorite altcoins inside of the market that I think point towards the direction towards alt season. We're seeing Bitcoin breaking out, getting closer and closer towards a new all-time high in price discovery. I want to talk about some of the 2017 altcoins being Dogecoin, Bitcoin Cash, XRP, Litecoin, some of the older ones, TRX, and even Cardano, because these are all showing their own signs of reversal. And I think it's important because if we're understanding how some of the old dinosaur altcoins of 2017, altcoins that have been around for multiple cycles, if those ones are showing reversal, it points to the conclusion that the rest of the market is also going to be saying the same thing. So if you guys do find value, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys want to see how I'm investing my portfolio, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up for my VIP private group. Now, in my last update when I was talking about Bitcoin, I made the conclusion that we were kind of at this last little moment before we go into price discovery. And it looked a lot like what happened in the last cycle when we retested that prior all-time high. We had this quick pullback, and then we kind of retested the mid-range right here before going into new all-time highs. And to me, the price action looks pretty much the same as what we're seeing today. It hasn't really varied all that much. And that's why I continue to say that as I'm seeing this sort of price action, I won't be surprised if this consolidation does lead to an inevitable all-time high. The only real difference is maybe we see a deeper correction inside of here. Maybe this ends up being something like this, a double bottom type formation. It wouldn't so much be a double bottom, but for us to come correcting all the way back down to like 64,000, I wouldn't be surprised. And we're already seeing Bitcoin kind of pulling back in the short term today, basically trapping any of the people that were longing into this false breakout. So Bitcoin's still correcting, it's still consolidating, it's still figuring out the direction that it's going to be having. But as we're retesting these prior all-time highs, for me, all that really matters is seeing what the bigger picture is. As we're at these all-time highs, we're either going to have one of two scenarios. Scenario one is this leads to a breakout and a price discovery. Scenario two, maybe our halving is a sell the news type of event, because our Bitcoin halving's coming up in like, a couple weeks at this point. If that ends up being a sell the news type of event where we do one more final shakeout before we get that move into price discovery, I don't really care either way. I would prefer a correction just because I could jump in at a discount. I could accumulate more crypto. I could add to previous positions that have outperformed so far. But if we don't get that, I'm also prepared, right? Most of my portfolio is just long held. I'm not really looking to do anything until new all-time highs, because at this point of the cycle, the only thing we should really be doing is looking to compound inside of any dip. And if we don't get the dip, already have our positions in the game, just looking to hold so that we can capitalize on the momentum ahead. So seeing Bitcoin at this all-time high, seeing it ready for price discovery, whether it's one more correction or not, the altcoins are also telling their own story. And this is something I've been pointing out to you guys quite a bit with Dogecoin, talking about how every time Bitcoin is at these all-time highs or new all-time highs, it's always at the point where Dogecoin does the exact same thing. Each and every cycle where Dogecoin has been right when Bitcoin runs to a new all-time high, it's kind of marked the last point before we go into price discovery. That's what happened in 2017, that's what happened in 2020, and that's currently what is taking place, at least in the shorter time frame. So seeing Dogecoin following the same thing, it gives me a lot of confidence that we're going to continue to see a sustained outperformance, because what we've seen historically is at the same time Bitcoin's at those prior all-time highs, it's at the same moment where we ended up seeing Dogecoin pretty much going into a new all-time high, and it outperformed Bitcoin the entire way. Each and every one of the cycles it's done that. 2017 was a much more powerful cycle for altcoins because Bitcoin dominance was falling to a new all-time low, right? And we've talked extensively about that. But the interesting thing that I'm noticing anyways is that there's many other altcoins inside of the market that are, what we would consider dinosaur altcoins. Most people have forgot about them. Most people don't really care about them because they've moved on to something new, something more of a cycle one or cycle two type coin. And that's pretty normal. What we've ended up seeing historically, at least up to this point, 2017 was super parabolic, right? Notice what Bitcoin Cash did in 2017 versus look what it did in our last cycle. So a lot of that points to the same conclusion of Bitcoin dominance, right? I've talked extensively about this. What we saw in 2017 was something super unique because Bitcoin dominance was falling to new all-time lows. Altcoins were outperforming into price discovery against their Bitcoin ratios. So 2017 altcoin runs were much, much bigger in size, ROI, all of the above, more volume, everything. Now what we did see another cycle, we did uptrend, but this was a lower high, right? We never went into a new all-time high. And our cycle, when it comes to Bitcoin Cash, we basically, if I delete this, We didn't start running until the very bottom of COVID, and this was our real cycle, just this little move here. And then what we ended up seeing was some of these OG altcoins inside of this final sort of capitulation and sell-off. Bitcoin dominance never went to a new all-time low, and what we ended up seeing was these altcoins just went into lower highs, right? They went to their mid-cycle, they never even retested their prior all-time highs. Some of them did, but Bitcoin Cash was one of them that did not. Now, as we're looking at our current cycle, I've been drawing the conclusion that we're going to end up seeing, Bitcoin dominance topping, and we're going to be looking at another 2017 type of alt run. And I do think that that's exactly what the charts are telling us when we're zooming in and taking a look at Bitcoin Cash, because this thing is reversing, right? This thing's already having a big breakout. I think it's obvious that this entire accumulation that we've been in for, well, since the very bottom of 2018, a lot of these OG 2017 altcoins, they've just been in these long-term bottom formations. And so as most people have written them off because of their underperformance in the last cycle, I don't even hold Bitcoin Cash, but it's listed on PayPal. It's listed on basically everywhere that Bitcoin and Ethereum are listed when it comes to normal retail adoption. So I don't think that anybody should write it off, because we see a significant amount of volume that has been inside of this accumulation. And this accumulation has taken place for almost 2,000 days. So it's a much longer accumulation than most any cycle I've seen in crypto. The difference is, now that we're starting to break out, I think that we're going to see a lot more upside potential. And the point that I'm trying to make here is, inside of our last cycle, it was just a lower high in the Bitcoin dominance, right? Bitcoin dominance never fell to a new all-time low in the same way that it did in 2017. So altcoins didn't have the same upside potential. This cycle, I believe that this is the one where that takes place, right? Where this entire accumulation is pointing towards us having another 2017 alt run, because our entire consolidation of Bitcoin dominance has been in this descending triangle. This is a lower high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high with a horizontal support. Once this breaks down, I think that it's pointing to the same conclusion, that the reason why we're seeing these long-term accumulations with all of this volume shows that we're going to have another 2017 bull run. And I've been preaching that for months, over a year at this point, all the way since the very bottom of our last cycle, because the main point that I've been trying to make is we have way more opportunity for upside, because there's on-ramps that we haven't had, there's adoption that we haven't had, and now that the institutions are involved, I've honestly got nothing but confidence that this whole market cycle is going to be crazy. Because in the last cycle, because the profits were so much smaller, because we only made this big of a move inside of the Bitcoin dominance, and altcoins only had that much of a, we only had from 74.5% down to 40%. We only had like a 35% gap to be able to go into altcoins. That's not a very big amount of money that can shift to give us, big alt season. And that's why we never really saw that. It was niche markets, DeFi, NFTs, certain things like that ended up taking off, but the majority of the market did not, as indicated by our 2017 altcoins that made lower highs in comparison to their 2017 cycle tops. However, the difference is, because this is a bearish long-term pattern, being a descending triangle, this is pointing that this thing is going to end up breaking down once more. And with these things already reversing, showing the same conclusions that I was making with Dogecoin, how every single time we're at a topping point in the Bitcoin dominance, it's right when Dogecoin is about to go into price discovery. So seeing Dogecoin breaking out once again right in here, starting to break out of its long-term bottom formation at the same moment where Bitcoin dominance is sitting at descending resistance, I think that there's too many parallels that we can draw showing that there's a lot more retail money in this cycle, as indicated by the meme coins. Mostly everything blowing up this cycle has been meme coins, and I think that there's going to be a lot more retail money kind of coming into these. And you got to look at the coins that have the most accessibility to retail, and Bitcoin Cash, Dogecoin, these are all cryptos that have the most accessibility to the average person. Now, I wanted to also come in here and talk about XRP, because this is another prime example of 2017 type altcoins that are looking really solid. This is one that has been inside of this long-term triangle type consolidation, and this is the main thing I'm watching for when it comes to XRP. I think that that's really all it's been doing for the most part, is just consolidating inside of this long-term triangle. And once we get outside of this descending resistance, that's where all the fun starts, right? I think that that's what's coming. It might consolidate here for a little while, but once we break out clear this descending resistance. I think we're going to get a great big green candle all the way up to about $1.40 being this lower high, and we could even come all the way back up to like $2. This thing is going to have another 2017 bull run, and the real reason I say that has a lot to do with so many of the charts that I'm sharing with you guys. You know, we're looking at the Bitcoin dominance sitting at this descending resistance, looking like it's getting ready to top in a bearish continuation pattern, looking like we're going to have another 2017 bull run. All of the long-term 2017 altcoins have been consolidating and accumulating forever. They've maintained higher highs. We never broke below the peak low of 2018, so this is all just a long-term accumulation with good volume to match it. When we're looking at XRP, it's done the same thing. It even fought through the lawsuit. They've got all of that stuff squared away, so it's going to get listed everywhere else that it normally was, and I think it's going to also end up taking off in a big way. Now, one of the charts that I think is interesting to take a look at, so if we come over here and take a look at the altcoin total market cap, I think that this really points to a lot of the same parallels that I've been drawing, at least, to explain what I think is happening long-term. Now, in our last cycle, or what I should say our first cycle, we've seen the same consolidation pattern where we get a cycle top, we make this first two little lower highs, leads to this little W type consolidation. We kind of go through two of these before a final capitulation. It's really the same thing that took place in 2018 where we kind of get this same pattern, capitulation all the way down here at the bottom. And then this leads us into this first breakout, right? Because we have this descending resistance. This is our first breakout that takes place right here, takes us kind of to the lower mid cycle range, and then we get a further consolidation sideways, right? And it's the same thing that took place each and every one of these cycles. Now, what I find interesting is all of our charts are looking like they're going to have another 2017 type rally, and then when we're looking over here at our altcoin total market cap from the entirety of our cycles, it looks like when 2017 first started, or what I should say 2016, 2017, we made our first breakout and then just kind of consolidated here on top of these prior all-time highs. And it was at this consolidation that led us into that final sort of major new all-time high, and why 2017 was so great. We just had way more retail involvement than ever before. So that's why the charts went so parabolic. Now, looking at where we're at today, I think that we're in another example of that. And it's the same sort of setup once more. The only difference is we've taken longer to create this one. There's been more accumulation, which I just believe that to get the same sort of expansion in price, it takes more time than it did in 2016, 2017, right? There wasn't very much money in it back then. So to get this type of an ROI, even though there was a lot of new money that came into the market, it didn't take nearly the same sort of liquidity as it does today. So I think that the time has to be longer because of the fact we're going to see the same sort of upside potential in a lot of ways. However, to get that upside potential, it's going to take a lot more years to accumulate, to grow, to develop before we can see that same type of ROI. So looking at the cycle today, I believe that we're at this exact same point where we're just kind of consolidating here, retesting those prior all-time highs before we go into another 2017 type alt run. And I've been showing you guys this for a year at this point, over a year, a year and a half, almost 2 years now, as we're getting deeper into this 4-year cycle. So looking at all of our charts, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, it makes me excited because as everything is lining up with our charts, all of these are looking like they've just been accumulating for a significant period of time. I mean, XRP has just been slowly uptrending for over a year, like a year and a half. It's just been going slowly sideways but up. And I think that once this thing breaks out, all of these are going to teleport kind of in the same ways that they did in their first cycles, right? Because that's what XRP did. It kind of made these little pumps, but then it just went sideways, 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 and then 2017 took place and everything absolutely blew up. Now, we don't have to go quite that crazy, but don't be surprised if we do. I mean, don't be surprised if this thing runs up, consolidates at this level, and then just boom, and we go into this massive new all-time high. Because even though there's a lot of money inside of this market, even though there's a lot of money inside of Bitcoin Cash, there's plenty of money still inside of the normal everyday world that's waiting to come into crypto, that I think that the values of these things are going to absolutely balloon. Litecoin is another example, another one of these altcoins that's pretty much listed everywhere that you're going to find Bitcoin or Ethereum. And it also shows a lot of the same similarities. I mean, realistically, it's got good volume. This one actually did make a new all-time high in the last cycle, but when I look at this, it just kind of looks like, once again, a big triangle. This one is more of an ascending triangle, and we've already had all of these reactions inside of this triangle. But regardless of that, we've held higher highs. We've always been uptrending since 2018. All of these altcoins have, regardless of which ones, even with XRP getting sued. So what that tells me is they're going to end up having a new cycle. So if all of our 2017 altcoins are looking like they're about to go into this big new all-time high, this big parabolic push, I think that it lines up with this thing breaking down as far as the Bitcoin dominance goes, because all of these look pretty solid. Litecoin's not my favorite crypto in the world. I don't hold any of it. I don't hold a lot of these coins, but at the end of the day, what we're seeing is a shifting point. If we're seeing OG altcoins from 2017 waking up, looking like they're actually going to go into a new cycle, imagine what all of the new altcoins are going to do. Imagine what all of the meme coins are going to do. Imagine all of the retail money that is here. I think that it's pointing to a lot of those same parallels. Tron is another example that most people never think about, but it's got one of the best looking charts I've ever seen. And when we're looking at DeFi Llama, this has one of the most TVL. I think it's like behind Ethereum or something as far as TVL goes. So we've seen a significant amount of adoption inside of Tron, and I don't really know where all of that data comes from. I don't know a lot about Tron personally. All I know is that when we're seeing a lot of these altcoins that have never really gone lower than what we've seen in these prior cycles, Tron has never made a lower low since 2020. Tron has always maintained higher highs, and now that it's showing this big sort of rounded bottom accumulation, I honestly think that we're kind of at that last moment of time before this thing does go into this big parabolic move. Think about how much time it's taken for these to accumulate. These 2017 altcoins, they had these big runs, but it's taken so much time for them to grow and develop and add more liquidity to be able to send these into another move. But the charts don't lie, guys. The charts are showing that these are getting heavily accumulated, and Tron has one of the highest TVL. So regardless of your opinions on it and whether you think Justin Sun is a scammer, a lot of these things are going to end up taking off in a big way. And I think that this is the cycle where retail is going to get heavily invested in the same ways that 2017 was, because we didn't really see that in the last cycle very much. Now, coming into our last altcoin that we're going to talk about today, this one is going to be Cardano. Cardano is one that I actually have continued to hold since all the way back at like 5 cents, or it was actually 3.5 cents that I bought my spot bags. So I've been holding this for a long time because Cardano, to me, as long as Ethereum is going to do good, I think that the narrative, with ETH having scalability issues, these other layer ones are going to do good. And Charles Hoskinson was one of the developers of Ethereum in the early days. So I think that this thing is going to do well just because of those couple narratives. Now, what we've seen this do recently has more or less just been breaking out of our resistance of our bear market. This is kind of our main consolidation. We made our first higher high here, and we're kind of still just consolidating inside of that same level. Wouldn't be surprised if we revisited it, kind of consolidated here for some more, but I think that we're going to be taking our next leg up very soon. And when I look at this based off of its last cycle, all this thing ever really did is it had this first little impulse. And so as I'm seeing it reverse, I think this next cycle is going to get insanely parabolic for this. This was a wave 1, a wave 2, and we're getting ready for our most impulsive cycle to come. So I do think that it's lining up perfectly with this wave 3 being the most impulsive, the most volume coming into it. It would make sense that that would take place in the 2017 type alt run. Because if we're going to see institutions, they're going to need exit liquidity. They need exit liquidity, so they bring retail investors. Retail investors go buy all of this stuff. They think, oh man, Bitcoin's worth $150,000. Bitcoin Cash is worth not even $1,000. I need to go buy this because it's going to definitely hit that one day. That's the thought process of a retail investor. So when we're seeing this, once some of these people do a little research and they realize, oh wow, this guy actually was one of the people that created Ethereum and he's fixing it and making it better, and that's what Cardano is, right? That's where these silly narratives spin off. And that's why the upside potential ends up getting crazy. So I just wanted to break this stuff down to you guys. I just wanted to break it down for you guys. If we see a correction, great. I would love to buy the dip. If we don't, regardless, I do think that this thing is setting up for a big sort of move. All of the altcoins look primed. And when we're seeing OG altcoins of 2017 looking primed, regardless of which one they are, I think that that's a sign that there's going to be a lot more money involved this cycle than ever before. And that's really what the charts are showing. And I wanted to break it down for you guys in a very easy to understand way. So if you found value, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys do want to see how I'm investing long term, any altcoins I'm buying, selling, trading that I think are going to take off the most when all of this upside potential sets in, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.